So in this video, we're going to work with fractions. Specifically, we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions. And I remember when I was first learning fractions, I did not like working with them. I much preferred working with decimals because with fractions, there's all these rules that we have to follow. And with decimals, you don't really have to follow those rules or that many rules. Well, trust me when I say that once you learn these rules and become familiar with these rules of fractions, fractions are much easier to work with. They're much more conventional to work with. And now I prefer much more working with fractions. You just have to get over the hurdle of learning the rules and how to work with them. So let's start. Let's say we have the fraction 7 over 3, right? 7 over 3. And to that we were adding 4 over 3, right? Now, since these have common denominators, remember the denominators are the bottom part of the fraction here. Since they have common denominators, we don't really have to do that much. We can bring this 3 over as a denominator and just add the numerators, the top part of the fractions right here, right? We can add those numerators as if we were just working with regular numbers, and we know that 7 plus 4 equals 11. So our answer would be 11 over 3, right? And the same goes for subtracting, right? If we had 7 over 3 minus 4 over 3, right? We can bring this numerator over like that, right? And subtract the numerator, 7 and 4, as if they were just regular numbers. 7 minus 4 is 3, and we end up with 3 over 3. And be careful, you always want to see if you can simplify these fractions, right? And 3 over 3 simplified is just 1, right? And that's simple, right? Have common denominators, we can just bring the denominators over and subtract and add the numerators. The problem becomes when we don't have common denominators. For example, if I wanted to add 1/2, 1 over 2, and 1/3, 1 over 3, right? What would that equal? Well, these don't have common denominators. We have a 2 and we have a 3. Those aren't common denominators. In order to add and subtract fractions, at least easily by hand, we need common denominators. So what we're going to have to do is manipulate these fractions so that they have common denominators. And how we do that is by finding a common multiple between the two denominators, right? And right off the top of my head, I know that 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. And I also know that 3 times 2 is 6. So a common multiple between 2 and 3 would be 6. At least the least common multiple would be 6, right? So how do I give these denominators, right? How do I change this 2 and this 3 into a 6? Well, we'll do this one at a time, right? So to change 1 over 2 so that it has a denominator of 6, I know that I can multiply 2 by 3 to get 6. So what I would do would be to multiply this fraction by 3 over 3. I can't just multiply the 2 by 3 to get 6, because then we have a different fraction altogether. If we multiply by 3 over 3, multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 3, we don't end up with a different fraction. We just end up with the same fraction, just not simplified, right? So if I multiplied this, and in another video I talked about how to multiply and divide fractions, we end up with 3 over 6. And again, this isn't a different fraction necessarily. 3 over 6 simplified is 1/2, right? So boom, we changed 1/2 so that it has a denominator of 6. And the same can be done with 1/3, right? I know that 3 times 2 is 6, right? So if I multiply this fraction by 2 over 2, I end up with 1 times 2, and 6, 3 times 2, which again, if you simplify those, or if you simplify 2 over 6, you end up with 1 over 3, right? So now we have two fractions with common denominators, right? So now I can say, hey, 3 over 6 plus 2 over 6 equals, bring the 6 over, since now we have common denominators. 3 plus 2 is 5. That equals 5 over 6. So 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 equals 5 over 6. And the same can be done when we subtract these again. 3 over 6 minus 2 over 6 equals 1 over 6, right? So again, adding and subtracting fractions are easy. The hard part is finding a common denominator. Again, The numerators, if we have common denominators, we can work with the numerators as if they were regular numbers, right? But when we don't have common denominators, we need to find a common multiple and manipulate the function so that manipulate the fraction, so that we end up with a fraction that has a common denominator, as we see over here.